On either side of the path, there were a few natural caves. Babaji had warned me that the Himalayan bear would sometimes be found living in these caves. So when I heard a kind of humming, murmuring sound coming from one of the caves, I was gripped with fear and froze. Then I smelled incense that seemed to come from the cave. Cautiously, trembling with excitement, I crept towards the mouth and into the cave. In a minute, my eyes got accustomed to the dim light that was coming from a small fire burning in a deep pit at the far end of the cave. Facing the fire sat a bare-bodied figure who seemed to be throwing incense into the fire and chanting something that I could not understand in a droning tone. I quietly sat down at a distance, waiting for him to acknowledge my presence, for I was sure he was aware of my entry. After a while, he turned in my direction and gestured to me to come closer. I moved closer to the fire. Now, I could see his face clearly. It was a wrinkled and weather-beaten old face of Mongolian origin. A few grey strands of hair formed his beard and thin moustache, and he was totally bald. I guessed that he was a Buddhist monk of some sort. Surprisingly, he spoke haltingly in English. His voice was rough and sounded more like a croak. "Greetings," he said with folded hands. "May the Buddha, Avlokteshvara, bestow his blessings on you." I prostrated before him and explained who I was and why I was there. I know, he said. "I know your Babaji. We meet often. I am a wandering Tibetan yogi belonging to the Karagyupa sect of the great yogi Milarepa. Milarepa means cotton-clad. We wear only a small cotton loincloth even in the severest of winters." "What were you chanting, sir, and how do you know English?" "I shall not answer your second question. You will come to know eventually. As for the first, I was chanting the Buddhist mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. May I ask you, sir, how you managed to remain bare-bodied even in the height of winter? Even Babaji is like you." "I will explain, child. We, who belong to the lineage of Milarepa, practice a breathing technique combined with visualization called Thummo. This builds up the heat of the inner fire at the navel center, the Manipura, and spreads it throughout the body. If you will notice, I am sweating profusely. That is because of the internal heat. Some of our yogis can dry wet sheets of cloth wrapped around their backs in minutes, even in winter. The Manipura is the same center where the fire touched you yesterday. If and when necessary, your Babaji will teach you a technique similar to Thummo which he practices." "Wait a minute," I said. "How do you know about the fire touching my navel?" "Babaji has not left my side since that incident, unless of course he slipped off during the night while I slept and discussed this matter with you." "I don't think so myself. Child, we possess means of communications which most people do not know of, and they are not mysterious. When the mind becomes tranquil and acquires the power of one-pointed attention, it is possible to exchange thoughts." "Two more questions, sir, if I may," I said. "Go ahead." Some books say that hidden away in certain parts of Tibet, there are remains of old extraterrestrial civilizations. Is that true? Secondly, does the Yeti, the abominable snowman, really exist? Have you seen one? To the first question, said the Tibetan yogi, yes, there are such places, and I have myself seen such a cave in an almost inaccessible part of Tibet. There, I have seen well-preserved bodies of small-built humanoids, with skulls larger than ours and a dark, almost grayish complexion. However, we believe that they are an ancient race from the earth itself and not from some other planet or galaxy. Our teachers say that this particular race was destroyed by a war between two rival civilizations that had both evolved to great heights intellectually and ignored the feelings of love and compassion totally. The way our present civilization is progressing, one wonders what fate awaits us. Now, regarding the Yeti, well, it exists, although many reported sightings may be false. On the ancient route to Kailash from Badrinath, across the Mana Pass, which is now almost never used, there exists an old Buddhist monastery called Tholingmat on the Tibetan side. In the caves not far from Tholingmat, some lamas have sighted the Yeti even recently. I have seen one myself.